The Texans have a golden opportunity as they are rumored to signing another player in the secondary. Now, I know what you're going to say. Hey, Mike, the Texans already have a lot of secondary options. They got safeties, they got cornerbacks. Yes, but there is never enough depth on an NFL roster. You have players that are, no offense, have had injuries. Jalen Pitre coming off a torn pectoral muscle. No offense to Derek Stingley, just got signed a massive contract, but he's had past history of injuries. So you can never have too much depth. You can never predict anything. That's kind of why this roster is kind of just structured around Nick Caserio with the offensive line, depth on depth on depth, wide receiver, depth on depth on depth, because you could have those injuries at any given time. Now, I love this signing for the Texans, but before we get into the Texans news, if you would, 75% of you are not subscribed. If you want to stay up to date with Texans news, just hit that sub button. But the player we're talking about is cornerback Rasul Douglas. And I know the last thing you want to hear about is rumors, but we're in the midst of getting into training camp, right? June 29th, right before July. There's not much to talk about, to be quite honest. I mean, do you want me to keep repeating the same thing about how I think the Texans offense is going to go nuclear this season? I mean, there's only so many things we could talk about. So this right here, I really don't mind it. The Texans are positioned to go after Rasul Douglas. And hypothetically, it really wouldn't be the worst decision in the world. They lost Ronald Darby. Yes, they brought in Damon Arnett. If you're looking at the depth chart officially, I mean, you brought him in. So he's probably going to be what Ronald Darby was supposed to be. You have that extra depth. So likely I'm not expecting the Texans to go after Douglas. However, you may have to make a decision as to, and we talked about it yesterday with Ogbo Okoronkwo and potentially him being signed. I mean, the likelihood the Texans sign somebody this late into the offseason, right before training camp, right before preparing for the season, is highly unlikely. So that's first things first. However, you still have to talk about it. It's a reliable thing here. So the biggest thing about Rasul Douglas is he's a ball hawk, right? A knack for finding the ball, and was pretty good on the Bills in 2023. Did not have the best season in 2024. Again, those are his numbers. Not solid. I mean, it's okay. It's baseline, but that's kind of why the Bills ended up getting rid of him, not only to save salary, but if you look at the biggest thing with Douglas, he's only 29, didn't have the greatest season last year, but 2 seasons ago ranked 3rd in man coverage, or just coverage in general. So he could play both inside, outside, run game, pass game, decent in zone, solid in man. So I think in a DeMeco Ryans-led system, he could have more opportunities and play better in a system like Houston, where you have your solid starters already set in stone. Derek Stingley on the left, Kamari Lassiter on the right, Jalen Pitre in the nickel. And when you have Damon Arnett behind those guys, and then you add in Douglas, I feel like that's one of the better cornerback rooms. No offense, the last thing I would want to see is you get a rookie like Jalen Smith out there who, was drafted in the 4th round area. You don't want him to be on an island and, say things were to go wrong for Houston like they did last year at the wide receiver position, and you just got to throw guys into the starting rotation. This is where the defense could be exploited. So you have to have that depth. Again, linebacking core. You have to look at injuries. EJ Speed, Christian Harris. EJ Speed's not terrible. He's a good speedy linebacker, literally in his name. But Christian Harris, he suffered it was a calf injury for most of the season last year. So you want to see him on the field, but if he can't be on the field, do you really trust, Nick Neiman to get the job done, or any of the other guys to sub in and out? I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but Al-Shaair was suspended, for a few games last year with that hit on Trevor Lawrence. And you look at who was stepping up. So that's kind of the questions you have to look at, is who is the backup? And then if worst case scenario, who is there to fill in? If you're looking at the defensive line, Will Anderson, behind him, you probably got Mario Edwards. Maybe he'll be D-tackle, D-end. Danique Autry is mostly a nose. I don't know why he's listed behind Will Anderson. Maybe he plays edge. I don't know. Maybe he plays I don't know. But you have the depth here. Sheldon Rankins, Lorenzo Fatukasi, Tim Settle. You have guys behind each other. Darrell Taylor behind Daniil Hunter. That's solid. 202, EJ Speed, Shire, Harris. That's solid. Even Jake Hansen as a third. Casey Sai. I mean, that's a solid option as well. So you have depth at most of these positions besides cornerback, and that's where you got Arnett to kind of keep your bases here. But let's take a look at Douglas. And what makes him so special? I mean, there's so many of these players available. That's my point here is you have, obviously, this is unofficial. I mean, I could have went by position here, but Keenan Allen, probably don't need him. But you have Von Miller, Amari Cooper, Brandon Sheriff, Marcus Williams, all of these veterans that are just sitting on the free agency market. I was surprised the Texans didn't go after Stephon Gilmore. I mean, CJ Mosley did just retire. That was pretty incredible. But, I mean, realistically, all these players, they might be older, but they have the experience to not only play on an NFL roster, but I wouldn't even mind going out and getting Matt Judon or, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many guys. Obviously, Shaq Mason, we're going to just cross the name out, pretend like he's not there. But there's so many of these players here that you honestly could just stack up veterans and go stack on stack on stack on stack on stack. Even with the offensive line. I mean, Brandon Sheriff is sitting right there. The problem is they're probably going to want a big contract. I mean, you look at the Cam Robinson deal. He got like $10 million for one season. So the money is not ideal for the Texans. That's definitely the one thing. But when looking at the depth chart, the unofficial depth chart for the defense, there's definitely positions that you look at and you're like, what can we do if we're the Texans? So I want to hear from you guys in the comments. What position is the least amount of depth? And what should they add on to? I think cornerback, one more cornerback would be perfect. Offensive line, maybe one more. A guard position would be really likely just in case of injury. Because, again, you never know with the NFL in terms of injuries. They are so random, and that's kind of why they got Nick Chubb. And I was happy to get Nick Chubb because Joe Mixon's getting up there in age. He's had wear and tear, especially last year, another ankle injury. So you want to see the best possible players out there. And to run Joe Mixon into the ground for another 300 carries or attempts this year, not that he was going to get there with Woody Marks, but it looks like that the Texans weren't ready for Woody Marks. My point is, there is not enough depth ever on any team. And you look at the Eagles, one of the best defenses in the NFL last year, they were a rotational defense. They had one of the better secondaries in the NFL with all their young rookies. But again, they had so much depth. Cooper DeJean wasn't even playing until like halfway through the season. He just wasn't. I mean, they put him out there more and more, and then he just took over as the season went on. But that's what you want to see with the Texans. You want to just see the depth on depth on depth. And I'll leave the question out there, but what position outside a cornerback? I mean, really just list it. So off the top of my head, you have running back is pretty set. Wide receiver is pretty set. I would even say tight end is pretty set with Brevin Jordan coming back. Offensive line, slim pickings. Cornerback, offensive line, linebacker are the three positions you really need more help at. Tight end, you could always get one or two here and there. I think this might be Dalton Schultz's last year in Houston. We had, maybe Cade Stover takes a step forward as a blocker or maybe more of a reception artist. I don't know. They used him mainly as a blocker last year. He can catch the ball. I don't know. I'm just looking forward to this team. As far as the defense and you're looking at Rasul Douglas, I mean, what do you got to lose? No offense. I mean, Douglas, one of the better corners a couple of years ago, was decent on the Packers, went to the Bills, balled out. Why not bring him to Houston? I mean, it really isn't such a bad idea. The rumors are really right here. You have your solid star guys, and Stingley, Lassiter. I don't know if whoever's writing this article knows that Damon Arnett is on the team, but that was kind of the replacement for Ronald Darby. But like that's what we're looking at for this. And as much as I would say that it doesn't make sense to bring in more players, again, it never hurts. I mean, just look at how the draft went. I mean, they just, again, players in the secondary that they didn't necessarily need, but they did it anyway because they needed depth. So I'm looking forward to this season. It's going to be an exciting offense. I'm going to be a lot more excited for the offense than the defense this year. But it's a matter of how can the team mesh together. You have new weapons. You have a new offensive line, a lot of new pieces there. Only really 2 or 3 of those guys kind of remain the same at their positions. You have new guys you got to be able to implement into the system. But I think it's going to work with Popovich on the line as line coach. Nick Caley but a new offensive coordinator. I like this team. I think it really does have a chance, but you can never have too much depth. And I encourage Nick Caserio. We'll go back to the graphic one more time. But I encourage Nick Caserio to go out and maybe get another, line piece like Von Miller. Why not? Maybe get a Brandon Sheriff to, complement. I mean, if the players want to come to Houston, why not tell them, hey, we're going to try and win a championship? I mean, James Bradbury's still sitting on the market. So, again, there's a lot of options. I mean, that's just the list of many. So, let me know your thoughts on what maybe a player you want to get and maybe the depth of position. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, hit that sub button if you're new. Appreciate all the support on the past videos. The past 2 videos have been popping off. So, again, thank you guys so much. The support means everything. Texans Digest, we're having fun, and we haven't even been in the season yet. We started this channel back in November. We have not really been in season, and we're already close to 2,000 subs. So that's the next milestone on the channel. Trying to hit 2,000 subs, just over 300 away. Hit that sub button if you will. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.